Morning. It is me. Let's just say I've regenerated. I was tired of the Victorian Hobbit look, to be honest with you. I think that you've got to change in life, or things become stale, and life is about change and progress. In that same vein, I think that the fragrance community has maybe become a little bit too fast. And so today I just wanted to slow everything down and talk to you about, in depth, really, like my 5 favorite fragrances as of right now, and not really just do a review, just show you, and explain to you and express to you how they make me feel, what they mean to me, why they resonate with me in such a way. Try and just give you something that nobody else in the community, and maybe not even I, have given you before. And if I succeed with that today, then I'll feel very happy. So Dior Homme. What can be said about Dior Homme, the original, that hasn't been said a million times before, and that I haven't said a million times before about it? Well, not that much, if I'm honest, but I was hoping I could tell you a story that I don't need to tell you, a story that some people might argue maybe I shouldn't even tell you, but I wanted to, because it relates to Dior Homme very, very much, and it's something I just kind of want to get off my chest. You might recognize this place. It's because I've taken you here before. This is where I shot the Armani Sillage video. And that was a wild video, wasn't it? I knew that would be successful, but I didn't think it would be as successful as it was, nowhere near as successful as it was. How do you get comfortable on a rock? That's my question right now. Is this alright? It'll have to be alright, I suppose. Yeah, something like this. I don't know. Maybe I should just cross my legs. So yeah, I remember doing that. I shot it just down there. Shot the cutaways around here, of course, and then I shot the speaking part. There's some steps up there, and that was great. It was a very cold day, but a great shoot. It took me quite a while to edit it. Not because it was sort of a challenging edit, but because there was a lot of different things going on. Anyway, so edit and release that, and I also shot the chat roulette video and released that. And as I was editing that chat roulette video, I remember thinking to myself, Jesus, I'm really fat, or really chubby. And at that point I'd done like a lot of running, a ton of running, and I stood on the scales, I was 12 stone, and I remember thinking, that's not right. That doesn't make any sense. But I left it, When I visited my mum and dad, even my mum pulled me aside, and she was like, George, you're getting quite big. What are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I eat pretty well. I don't, overeat or anything like that. I don't know what's going on. So I released that video. Sillage video starts to take viral. Very, very, viral for me, I suppose. Very exciting. Anyway, a week later I collapsed on the floor. And I wake up, looking up, and my girlfriend, Megan, is calling the ambulance. To some of you, that'll be the biggest revelation of this video. Wait, George, you have a girlfriend? Some of you be like, wait, you're not gay? No, just because a dude likes fragrances doesn't mean that they're gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. So I'm on the floor, and my chest is in the worst pain I've ever felt in my entire life. It was crushing pain, real intense crushing pain, and my my pectorals were on fire. Everything was just tough, and I had this fever. It just sort of all happened at once. I'd had a couple chest pains that previous week, but I thought it was something I'd had before, which is costochondritis. Anyway, they rushed me into the hospital, and I'm in probably the worst pain that I've ever been in my life. It's like a 10 out of 10. There's this, and I was out of it. They had to give me morphine, which was not as fun as it sounds. And I remember, I even took a picture. There were just 4 or 5 doctors looking at me and then going away and going, what the hell is wrong with this guy? And then would come and say, they would ask me a load of questions. Anyway, in the end, one of the doctors comes to me and says, Mr. Atkinson, you've got pericardial effusion, you've got pericarditis, which is an infection around the heart. And I said, what? I'm 28 years old. And I shouldn't have done this. I don't know, well, I do know why I did this, because I was fucking terrified and lonely. And, nobody could visit me or anything like that. I just posted on Facebook, like, I've got this heart infection and all this kind of stuff, which was actually not completely accurate. I keep forgetting that I'm the fragrance apprentice and not just George Atkinson, and then bang, within like half an hour, people were messaging me on Instagram saying, oh my God, I can't believe that you've had a heart attack. Still to this day, people mistake that. They're like, George, I can't believe that you had a heart attack so young. I didn't have a heart attack, I had pericarditis, which is not fun at 28 either. It's quite rare. Anyway, why am I telling you this, right? Why am I telling you this? Well, I was in hospital for 3 weeks. And partly because every day a doctor would come in, and the NHS is amazing and great, but they would come in and they would say, it's a bacterial infection. No, it's a viral infection. No, it's this, not that. No, it's this, and just so many different things. In the end, mentally and psychologically, I was pretty destroyed. Anyway, there's this one moment that happened. I promise you I will get to the fragrance, it's important. There was one moment that happened. I was being sick all the time. Being sick constantly. And this nurse, lovely nurse, said, we're going to give you an anti-sickness drug, because I'm just throwing up constantly. And I was in two minds about that, because I think when you're sick, it's actually probably a good thing. It's your body trying to do something. It's your body trying to actively get rid of something. And I went, okay. Anyway, I didn't know that I was allergic or highly sensitive to this anti-sickness drug. And this nurse injected it me in my left arm. I remember it so well. And I looked at her face, and suddenly her face started changing. And the room around me suddenly started melting away, and I was like, I don't think this is really good. I looked to my right. The heart monitor says that my heart rate is 181 beats per minute, and my blood pressure was through the roof. And that's all I could hear. I could hear do 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 do. 4 doctors and 1 nurse just come in, and it just won't go down. And I look at the doctor, and he's like messing with, he's, fiddling and fiddling and fiddling with his fingers. And I just look at him, and point blank I say to him, am I going to have a heart attack? And he just, he didn't answer me. And at that moment, I thought, this isn't really how I imagined my life was going to end. I mean, that's quite dramatic, I know. But my heart rate was going through the roof. Everybody looked nervous, everybody looked terrified. I was tripping out, like on LSD or something. And I thought, fuck, I'm going to die. And it really rocked me. Then I went out of hospital. I had 2 hospital visits. In between those hospital visits, Brooklyn Fragrance Lover died. And it was just, I didn't really know Carlos that well. We didn't talk that much, so I don't feel as though I should really say anything. I should just shut the fuck up, because I don't really know that man. But that whole 3-week period was one of the worst periods of my life. And the fucked up part is when I started to recover and get over it, because from day one they're like, this is really serious, Mr. Atkinson, this is really serious. I can't believe that you're having pericarditis at 28. This is so serious, I can't believe it. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And they were just fueling me with fear and terror. And oh my God, can you believe it? Can you believe it? Can you believe it? But the moment that I was starting to settle down, they just wanted to kick me out. And they were like, oh, don't worry about it, it's fine, it's okay, won't happen again. You might have an autoimmune disorder though. What? Isn't that serious? Fucking hell. It's just so mental. And the point is, they absolutely ripped my confidence away from me. They and the illness. Because it's just constantly, this is so rare for you, this is so unusual. And you start to think am I going to get something else that's rare? Am I going to die? What the fuck? What is going to happen to me? I was very psychologically affected, more so than I would have wanted to admit to anybody. Because I like to be the confident, not tough guy, but the confident guy, the confident guy who can make everybody laugh. And, being anxious and being depressed about myself, that's not very me. It's not something that I like to be doing. After that, I was constantly obsessed with my heart. I made a joke of it in the video where I had the mental breakdown, checking my pulse. I was checking my pulse all the time, because I think that event affected me, the 181 beats per minute. I was just constantly is something else going to happen? Am I going to get pericarditis again? Is my heart okay? Is my heart damaged? Anyway, a few months back, I have this massive panic attack. My heart rate jumps to 150 beats per minute. They get me into the hospital and they sit me down and they say, look, we've checked your x-rays, we've checked everything, your heart's fine, you're fine. But emotionally, you're not fine. And so I had to realise that I had now a long journey of recovering and finding who I was, because I'd lost myself. Two and a half months ago, I don't know why, it wasn't even that cold, but I wanted to wear Dior Homme. And I was starting to get better, starting to improve psychologically. Anyway, I sprayed this on my wrist, which I will do now actually. I smelt it and I remember making an absolute dick of myself in the Orchid Lounge karaoke bar in Manchester. I remembered shooting my first student film. I remembered going on holidays. I remembered, mostly, if I'm honest, fucking about in Manchester, going to see gigs, going to see theatre productions, going to see films, trying and failing to, with my friend Tyler, to go clubbing and talk to women, but he was the far more attractive guy than me, and he would always do better than I ever could. I remembered film school, I remembered fun, I remembered laughter, and in that moment I started to remember who I was. Because this isn't just Dior Homme for me, it's a notebook of many different positive and fun and great experiences that I've had in my life. It's a diary. I smell that. I mean, you can go through the pages of the diary and you can read what you've written and all that kind of stuff, but when I smell that, it's all there and it's all emotional and it's all through my hippocampus or whatever scientific reasoning there is. That fragrance is my early to mid-20s in a bottle. All the fuck-ups, all the mistakes, all the good times, all the success stories, all the confidence. I was the confident, to a point, arrogant. The arrogance got kicked the shit out of me in hospital, that's for certain. But the confident, cocky, smart-ass kid that I was, who knew everything about everything, who would swagger into somewhere, thinks he fucking owns the place. It's all in here. It was like I was in a vast ocean of just nothing. Everything is water, and I didn't know where the fuck I was. I didn't know who I was. I'd lost everything. I'd lost my confidence. I'd lost my health. I'd lost my passion. And Homme was sort of the lifeboat in the middle of all that. And I'm not saying that Homme was the only factor, the deciding factor that got me well. My girlfriend, my family, my friends, myself. I'm going to pat myself on the back. I started eating super well. I've lost 2 stone since April. I'd wanted to become the healthiest version of myself so that I would never, or at least not for a long time, get ill again, touch stone. But in that moment when I smelt Dior Homme, I remembered what it was like to be George and the fun that George can have and the excitement that George can have. And I'm very grateful. And I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful. And I'm very grateful to you. Always. Please don't ever think that I'm not. I'm always grateful for you. Fragrance isn't just about smelling good, which is also a great part, but one day you'll be in a tough situation and you will smell a familiar smell that reminds you of a friend, of a situation, of a time in your life, an era in your life, and you'll go, I remember that. Maybe it's not all that bad. Anyway, don't let the clouds fool you. It's actually going to be a really lovely day, the weather forecast, so come on. I've got some other places to take you. I do like it around here. This is a road I sometimes walk down, and it doesn't look very British. It actually looks quite American, which I quite like, and it looks pleasant enough in the spring and the summer, but actually I think it looks far better in the autumn and the winter. I'm still not quite at autumn yet, are we? Everything's still green. I can see a bit of redness, a bit of orange, but mostly still green. I didn't like the original Strong Review. I found it too designery, and there is just becoming there was at least a regular sort of just designer smell that I didn't really particularly engage with. I got it in recent years. I got it with Boss Scent Absolute, really got it with Private Accord, both great fragrances, and when this came out, it just hit me. There are sometimes where just fragrances can just hit you, and once you sort of know what you're getting into with a sort of what's on the designer market, you have in your head what you're going to get. And this is pretty much part of the course. but it has this great combination of caramel and this nuttiness, this kind of chestnut kind of scent, on top of a very, very, kind of generic designery tone. But I like it. There's also like a really in-depth cleanliness that's really, really pleasant and that I like. And, you get to a point where you're doing this and you're like, should I even like designers anymore? Because this isn't Tobacco Vanille, this isn't Fève de Licieux, this isn't, the creme de la creme, this isn't, £160 niche fragrance that was created, and inspired by, I don't know, the season of autumn in India or something. It's not this incredibly artistic, it doesn't have an insane story, it doesn't have all that kind of stuff, and it just is what it is, but you just like it. I think that's just sometimes fair enough. That's just sometimes fine. People get really kind of nervous and worried about, mass market designers, but you shouldn't be afraid. They're just fine as they are, and they're wonderful. I'd love to be more involved in autumn. I think that this is a sort of a weird seasonal pressure that we put ourselves through, where I'm like, autumn's coming up. I should do something about that. I should do something. Like what? Go on a trip? Collect some conkers? Really go for it. So I decided this year, I'm going to go for it. Go for it with Halloween. And so I bought like 4 or 5 pumpkins. Just to feel as though like, all right, well I'm really getting into autumn now. I've bought 5 pumpkins. And that's my rationale. Well, I've bought 5 pumpkins. I'm like in the middle of autumn. It doesn't really make any sense. And I'm always like that with my fragrance collection. I'm like, I've got to soak up this autumn atmosphere. I've got to do something about it. Please, oh God. But I liked Stronger With You intensely last year. It was one of those fragrances that I put in a few lists and I thought, yeah, this is good. But this year, I've really started to love it. And I think that it's encompassing with me trying to get more autumnal and trying to get more into the autumn vibe. And I have fragrances for that. I have loads of fragrances, but this is the one that I've just really kind of latched onto and thought, yeah, this really works. I get it. I like it. I'm being autumnal. Everybody. It's great. You're probably wondering which is better, this, Freeze, or Absolutely. In my opinion, I own all 3. I'm not a fan of the original. But for me, it's just this. It's the smoothest. It's the most pleasant. It's the most well-rounded. Yeah, it's the one that I like. It's the one that I wear. Absolutely, it's lovely, but it's just a bit too edgy. I wear it in winter, but for autumn, for this period of year, yeah, intensely all the way, really. Come on, let's go. So there's a really lovely road that we just walked down, and it has all the traditional sort of British seaside town shops and things. It's got the fish and chip shop, it's got the arcade most definitely, and it's got a really lovely English pub, just so aesthetically British and wonderful. But there's also this there's some shops that have leather bags and These won't be any sort of department stores or chain stores. They'll be run just independently by people, and they'll have, the leather bags and the handbags, and there's quite a few pagan style shops that you find quite a lot. And these will have incense, these will have essential oils and things like that, and these are everywhere across the UK. And they'll have bits and bobs in them. They'll have, sheets and scarves and bric-a-brac and nice clothes, but they will always have this sort of musky patchouli scent, some of them usually, and that really does remind me of Misfit by Arquiste. And this is a fragrance that not too many people are talking about sort of in the YouTube realm, but it's done really, really well for itself. It's actually won a really prestigious award earlier this year, and it's relatively new, and it's a fragrance that is quite straightforward and quite simple in one respect. It's a patchouli bomb, and when I got a sample of this from Bloom, I was completely thrown into one of those shops, right, with patchouli, either incense or oil, and the smell of patchouli is on things, it's on clothes, it's on items of wood, it's stuff like that, and this really, really is that. Reminds me a little bit of L'Instant de Guerlain Extreme, but without all the bells and whistles. It's patchouli. It is patchouli in its most muskiest, most dustiest format, and it goes really, really well with the autumnal clothes that I've started wearing, such as the black jacket, the turtleneck. It's a bit bohemian, which of course I always appreciate, and it's nostalgic in a way. If you went to a load of pagan style shops in the 90s and the early noughties, which my mum and dad would take me to these kinds of stores where there'd be, usually to buy like essential oil and things like that. Scent had been very prevalent in my upbringing, which of course is probably why I'm doing this now. But those kinds of shops that are a bit sort of moody and a little bit dark inside, they're quite moody, they're quite atmospheric. Those types of shops, this is that. It's got a real aesthetic to it, and it paints a real picture. And also blending wise, just overall scent wise, it's actually quite simplistic in a way. And I still don't know what to make of the price point, because it's £160 for 100 milliliter, which I bought full retail at Bloom online, and I don't know if that's good or not. I mean, it's very high quality, and the projection longevity is pretty good. It's good for autumn as well. But I could imagine that some people would just smell this and go, it's just dusty patchouli, and not very strong dusty patchouli, which is true. It's quite subtle in the way that it sort of presents itself. It's not an overblown, over the top type of patchouli. It's not something like Patchouli Imperial by Dior. No. I think that is where you can go. You can go wrong, and you can go over the top, and you can go too far with patchouli. Patchouli should be. This is my kind of patchouli. This is the patchouli that I grew up with, which was a more dusty, muskier, sticking to clothes kind of smell. And this does smell as though it's not just patchouli oil, but it's patchouli incense that has gone into the atmosphere and, as I said, like stuck to different things. And so it gives it this kind of aerated vibe. But for me, the nostalgia is real, and the nostalgia is there for me. And I really, really enjoy that. I love any fragrance that can either take me back or potentially even take me forward to a place and time. And it's great for autumn. A man could wear this, a woman could wear this, a bohemian artist could wear this. I could imagine, a woman who has a long flowing coat, an actress, does poetry, very into nature, maybe a bit into sort of paganism, things like that, maybe not too seriously. They just collect different pagan bric-a-brac and all that kind of stuff. She reads tarot cards for people, things like that. This is the picture that is painted for me with Misfit. The name is intriguing to me as well. Misfit is it's not what I would have called it, because it doesn't feel as though it's misfitting anywhere. It doesn't feel as though, misfit for me is something that is making a statement. It's something that is kind of almost over the top in a way, something that is really far left field. There wouldn't be a lot of balance, there wouldn't be a lot of blending or good blending. It would just be all over the place. This isn't that. This is actually very well mannered. This is very well blended, very subtle. It takes its time. It can breathe. It's one of those fragrances that's a little bit linear, to the point where after about 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, you're kind of like, am I wearing this? Am I not wearing this? But it's still there. It's just, it's so straightforward. But Misfit, no. Misfit to me is somebody that's not very well behaved. Somebody that's a bit antisocial. But no, this is very social. Very easy to get along with. So, one of the things that's really good, and this is a classic thing to do with patchouli in the opening, is that there's this citrus as well, citrus blast, kind of like neroli, something along those lines. And that's just that's a good way to work with patchouli. That's one of the better ways. It's kind of an old-fashioned way, and it's a way that's been done many, many times, but it does create the balance and it makes it work. And so it's got that, and that citrus blast is the kind of the waterfall that crashes against the rocks of the patchouli. It's lovely. It's great. This is very frothy and chocolatey. Now, if you like patchouli, oh man, you should check this out. Very easy. Very, very easy recommendation for a patchouli lover. And somebody who just likes putting essential oils in their bath, like tea tree or lavender, or patchouli and all that. If you're somebody who loves the smell of the essential oils make in the hot water going across the room, this is that. This is all that aesthetic. This is all that idea. I'm now getting to the point in my collection and my journey, I suppose, is where I just like fragrances that don't have too many bells and whistles. I've done all that. I've done all the crazy, mix and match and sort of like an orgy of notes, just crashing them together and going, oh my god, what do you think of this? And like the flash, right? The flashiness of fragrance. I've done all that. And it does get boring. In the end, you're looking for like fragrances, this is what's happened to me anyway, that can just kind of take a one note and do it in a really, really great way and a perfect way. And just kind of single that note out and go, what can we do with this? What's possible with this note? What can we do to make this note absolutely shine? And Misfit has definitely done that with patchouli, and it's fantastic for autumn. Lovely. Tell you one of the reasons why people buy fragrances and why people get into it. It's as if they're not very confident. That's the honest truth. That's sort of one of the weird things about fragrances. People usually buy fragrances because they're not very confident and they want something to give them confidence. And the truth of the matter is that ultimately in life you've got to build your own confidence. I could really go on a rant here about how too many people, myself included, I'm not innocent in this, but too many people use things to give them confidence. But anything if your confidence and happiness are dependent on anything, it's always temporary. You need to find your inner confidence. You need to find confidence within yourself. But if you do want confidence, what's always given me confidence, my confidence fragrance in a way, is Tom Ford's Ombre leather. That really is just like confidence in a bottle. That's why I like it. That's why people like this fragrance, right? I mean, I could tell you that, well, it's got this leather, and Tom Ford's great at leather and everything like that, and but it's also got some soapiness and cleanliness. No, man, it just gives me fucking confidence. When I wear this, I'm just like, I'm gonna take on the world, and that's why I really like it. That's why people really like fragrances like this. This is why people maybe don't like sweet fragrances as much, because it's like, well, where's the confidence? Where's the edge? Where's the leather? Where's the harshness? But that for me has always been it with Ombre leather. And I think that also it just makes me think of, this is like a well put together bloke, in their mid to late 30s. And, I see people like Chris wearing this. And I've always seen Chris as like a really well put together guy. Somebody who's really confident and knows what he wants out of life. Then I got to know him and actually realised he's a complete and utter fruitcake like myself, and that made us bond even more, which was nice. But it does have that aura about it. It's amazing, isn't it? Isn't it amazing that fragrances can give you a picture of somebody, can give you a picture of, a theme of somebody who you ever aspire to be, and in the end, fragrances sort of tell you who, you buy a fragrance and you think, okay, with this fragrance, this magical fragrance, this is who I want to be. It doesn't always turn out like that, by the way. But in the end, what you get is who you were. Like Dior. Dior told me who I was. And this is kind of my Dior right now, in a way. I was the young guy, and, I went out and I partied, and I, enjoyed life and made mistakes, and I was in my early 20s, in my mid 20s, and did a lot of great things, did a lot of not so great things. And Dior will always be that for me. But Ombre leather is kind of like, going forward, this is now who I am. This is my signature scent. And what's interesting is that in 5, 10, 15 years, you start to sort of like get this legacy, and you smell, for me it would be Sean John, and it would remind me of that era, when I was young, in my late teens, and 21, 22. Then I've got Dior, and that's like 22, 23, all the way to about 27, 28. Now I've got this. I'll probably be rocking this until I'm maybe 35, and who knows when I'm 40, 45, 50, I could just smell this and go, oh yeah, I remember when I was that guy. Lovely evening. Lovely evening. On my birthday, I was in this whiskey bar in Edinburgh. They're very common, obviously. It's Edinburgh, for crying out loud. And obviously it's my favourite city. Where have I put it? My favourite city in the entire world. I was with Megan, my favourite lady in the world, and I was with Chris, probably my best friend in the world. And, you know, we'd had a couple of whiskies, and for some reason, I just thought, this is perfect. I don't want to drink for another year. And I remember thinking, it's not 10:15 yet. And I was born on September the 5th at 10:15 in the evening. And it was only 10. And so I quickly deliberated, what's my last drink going to be? What's my last ever, well, my last drink until I'm 30. And in the end, we got a 25-year Highland Park. And it was very expensive. But on the bottle, it was the last of the bottle, it said 1992. And in that moment, on that day, I drank a whiskey that was as old as me. It's 29 years old. And so now I drink alcohol-free Stella Artois. And I'm just waiting for September 5th, 2022. Excuse me. Until I can have, I don't want to litter here. Until I can have another, oh, that's not the microphone. This is the microphone. Until I have another proper drink. Not bad. Could be worse. Could be better. I absolutely love Victorian Tobacco by Galleria Perfumes. Absolutely love it. But I feel weird saying that. Because, I mean, oh my God. It's just so good. And there's a very specific reason why I love it. Right? But I feel kind of weird saying that I love it because I don't feel as though you'll believe me. That's why I did the Aaron Terence Hughes review, you know, with Smolder the way that I did it. Because, not because there were some comments saying, oh, it's because he doesn't really like it. No, it's because of comments like that. Because if Ashton's a friend of mine, you know, I wouldn't say as good as Chris, but we talk a lot. He's taught me quite a few things. Lovely guy, legitimately one of the nicest guys in the community. But I feel as though if I say to you, oh, I love this fragrance from Ashton's brand, you're going to go, yeah, well, all fragrance reviewers stick together. Of course you'd say that. But if I say I hate it, you're going to be like, oh yeah, well, he's just trying to be cool and contrarian and look as though he's being more realistic. And if I say, you know what, I think it's okay, but I don't like it, but I don't hate it, you're going to go, oh well, of course he's doing that. It's fence sitting because of the, so that it won't cause any drama. So I'm dead. And so with that, I mean, I've loved this fragrance. I've adored this fragrance, and I've kind of kept it secret. I've kept it secret because of the fact that I like a fragrance reviewer's fragrances, and a lot of fragrance reviewers' fragrances suck. Just really bad. Car crashes, we've seen them. We've seen the car crash that fragrance reviewers' fragrances have been. But I'd say that this is probably, I really like Gravitas and I like a lot of Peter's, but this is probably my favourite out of all of them, and I'll tell you why. It's Christmas, or it's around Christmas. I'm about 8 or 9. We had this big Victorian house in Scotland, in a little village in the southwest of Scotland. It's Christmas, it's coming up to Christmas. I'm 8 or 9, and I accidentally eat one of those sweets, those chocolate, chocolate box, but it's got liquor in them. And I remember biting into it and going, "Oh, frick!" My Scottish genes hadn't aroused yet, and to the point where I would taste that and go, "Oh, that's pretty damn good. I love that. Very Moorish." That didn't happen yet. I was only 8. I was only 9, and it was like such a shock to the system. It's like, there's alcohol in here. There's and it was very intense. And not a great memory in some respects, but a strong memory. And this smells. I get the Victorian thing. I do get the tobacco, but what I really get is this is a chocolate, a chocolate sweet from a chocolate box, laced with a liqueur, a really, really heady, rich liqueur. And I love it. I really, really love it. And it's so just rich and well done and whole, He sent me this for free, by the way. You should know that. He also sent me Cognac Cafe, which I thought was nice, and Dust to Dawn, which wasn't so nice. I get it. I do get it, but it wasn't really for me. I didn't really get it. Cognac Cafe's nice, and I'll wear it every now and then. But this, because it just took me straight to that memory and to memories of, liquor and alcohol, liqueurs, it's like Tia Marie, Drambuie, one of my personal favourites, Bailey's not so much. It's that, with the ethereal, really, really, not smoky tobacco, it's more the tobacco from Tobacco Vanille. It's that kind of drier, resinous tobacco, and I love it. I just love it. And it's one of the only ones from the Galleria line where I look at the price point and I go, yes, no, that's fair enough. That is fair enough. This is actually worth that money, because it's so rich, it's so bombastic, so beast mode, but it's just so compact. We were talking earlier about Strong With You, absolutely, and it's got that to a degree, but it's aerated and it's breathy and it's got this soapiness and this freshness. This doesn't have any of that. It's dark, and it's like a dark cocoa, like those really, really bitter 90% chocolate bars where you taste them and you're like, oh man, that's way too much. This is that. And so I don't think I'll ever run out of this. It's beast mode, projection longevity and all that. It's fantastic. But to me, it's just winter. It's perfect for winter. Stunning for winter. Incredible for just colder days, colder nights. I want to, I tell you where I want to wear this. Oh, I've forgotten the name. It's only because I've only just thought of it now. There's this place, there's this place down south in England. I was talking to Chris about going to it, and it's this place where they pretend like it's 1920s and it's 1930s, right? I can't remember. It's like a museum, but they do events, and they were going to do a Christmas event, and I was going to and it is like 1920s, 1930s, and everybody dresses up like it's 1920s, 1930s, and it's this old school British street, and you get to relive the past. I was going to wear the hell out of this. It's going to just go and if there was like a Victorian murder mystery, which there can be around Christmas time, or like a Victorian night or something like that, I was going to wear the hell out of this, because that is, to me, this is Christmas time. It's old-fashioned, it's regal, it's a sophisticated place. Oh, you've gone back in time, and that's what you're wearing, and it's amazing, just amazing, stunning. But I feel as though that's not what's going to be talked about, It's going to be, Ashton, it's Ashton, it's Ashton's fragrance, and that's the curse that all of these reviewers have got now, isn't it? I think that they all think that it's a good idea at the time, but then just the controversy, and I get it, actually, in some ways. I get why people are skeptical. I get why people's trust has been eroded because, not to name any names, but there was a certain gentleman who said, or incredibly inclined, that Navitus was his company. That's what everybody thought. That was the zeitgeist. That was the general perception. And everybody kind of believed that and bought that and thought, right, well, fair enough. And then it turned out not to be his company, and Navitus was its own thing, and now everybody's doing Navitus. And I think that people felt betrayed. And I think that people felt like, oh, you have no interest in telling us the truth. And that's the situation now with these fragrances, fragrance reviews, fragrances. It's just a bitter taste in everybody's mouth. And you know what? I get it. I completely get where you're coming from. And I feel it too. I would never make my own fragrance. I think that it's kind of somewhat brave that Ashton's done this and made this, and this is going to, give me a lot of pleasure over the winter time, over the Christmas time. It's a fragrance that I didn't know that I needed, and now I've got it. And that's a true gift. That's a true gift when a fragrance does that for you. I will never not have this in my collection. I think it's just fantastic. But I'll never do my own, because I feel as though I can't make my own fragrance. I can tell you what's a good fragrance and what isn't. I can tell you probably what the aroma chemicals are, and the discipline, a certain type of discipline of fragrance that, and this is being inspired by that, and how this is inner working. I can review, but I can't do, and I don't want to. I'm just happy just talking about them and being in love with them and enjoying it. I don't want to get involved, don't want to get my hands dirty. It's unnecessary. A gentleman called Ross, bearded Scotsman, said, if you made your own fragrance, I'd buy it. And I'd say, thanks. But every fragrance that I recommend and that I highly recommend, I just think to myself, well, that's another one I don't have to make. They're all out there. The fragrances that I recommend are my fragrances. They're perceptions and they're my viewpoints of the world in smelly form. And this is a fantastic addition to that, to my life. We've gone all the way from Dior Homme, where it literally sort of rekindled and kind of brought me back a little bit to my senses and to who I was. And that's the journey, man. That's what this is all about. It's about finding out who you are through the world of scent. I hadn't thought about that memory when I was 8 years old for years. This brought it back to me, and now I carry it forward and think, great, I can now represent myself and express myself in winter and Christmas with this fragrance. That's the gift of fragrances, and that's what this is all about. I really appreciate you spending this time with me and listening, and just spending the day with me. It's been lovely. We should do it more often. It's been good to have a catch up. And please check out these 5 fragrances. But take the real message home, which is, these are my favourite fragrances, and these are fragrances that represent my world. But the real point of this is finding fragrances for you that are going to represent yours. And that's the gift that keeps on giving. Good night.